There's a moment that happens before the first drink, the first hit, the first escape into oblivion. It's subtle, almost imperceptible. A restlessness, a hunger that food cannot satisfy, a loneliness that company cannot cure, an ache in the chest that feels like you're homesick for a place you've never been. You don't know it yet, but your soul is searching. For me, it started innocently enough. A drink to take the edge off, a cigarette to feel cool, to belong, to quiet the endless noise in my head. But something happened in those early experiences. A doorway opened. For a few precious hours, the weight lifted. The separation dissolved. I felt something. Maybe not peace, but at least relief from the relentless anxiety of being me. What I didn't understand then was that I had tasted, however briefly and artificially, what my soul was truly seeking. Transcendence. Liberation from the prison of my own thoughts. A sense of connection to something larger than my small, frightened self. So I went back, and back, and back. Addiction doesn't announce itself with trumpets and warnings. It arrives like an old friend offering comfort. Then gradually, imperceptibly, it tightens its grip until you realize you're no longer choosing it. It's choosing you. The Buddhist teachings speak of tanha, the craving, the thirst that causes all suffering. And oh, how I came to understand that word in my bones. The craving wasn't just physical, though my body certainly screamed for it. It was deeper, more primal. It was my soul reaching, grasping, desperately trying to fill a void that seemed infinite. Looking back now, I can see what was actually happening, though I couldn't see it then. My soul was dismantling everything false. Every relationship built on pretense, gone. Every carefully constructed identity, shattered. Every belief about who I was supposed to be, burned away. The addiction was ruthless in its destruction, sparing nothing that wasn't real. In the mystical traditions, they call this the dark night of the soul, that period of profound dissolution where everything you thought you were falls apart. St. John of the Cross wrote about it. Rumi danced in it. Every genuine spiritual path seems to require passing through it. But here's what they don't tell you in the recovery pamphlets. Sometimes the dark night arrives wearing the mask of addiction. When you're in the depths of addiction, the last thing you feel is that you're on some noble spiritual quest. You feel broken, ashamed, lost. You hide from the people who love you. You lie to yourself more than you lie to others. You make promises in the morning that you break by evening. And yet, the soul was learning surrender. Every failed attempt to control the addiction taught me something crucial. My willpower, my ego, my carefully managed self-image. None of it was enough. I had to hit bottom again and again until I finally understood that I couldn't save myself through my own strength alone. This is what the recovery programs know. We admitted we were powerless. The first step. It's not defeat. It's the beginning of wisdom. It's the ego finally bowing to something greater than itself. The soul was developing radical honesty. Addiction strips away pretense like nothing else. You can't maintain your social masks when you're craving for one more drink, one more fix, one more escape. The persona you show the world crumbles, and underneath it, you find raw, unfiltered truth about who you are. The good, the bad, the desperate, the hungry, the wounded. In many indigenous traditions, shamans undergo what they call dismemberment, a symbolic death where their identity is torn apart so they can be rebuilt with deeper wisdom. I didn't choose shamanic initiation, but looking back, that's what was happening. The addiction was dismembering my false self. The soul was experiencing the search for transcendence. Here's a secret that recovery culture sometimes overlooks. The impulse that drives addiction is fundamentally spiritual. We're seeking ego dissolution, expanded consciousness, relief from the endless chatter of our minds, connection to something greater than ourselves. The tragedy isn't the seeking. It's mistaking the chemical shortcut for the real thing. Aldous Huxley wrote about humans having a deep need to transcend themselves. And when healthy paths aren't available or known, we turn to substances. The mystic and the addict are drinking from the same well. One has found the spring, the other is lapping at a poisoned puddle. But the thirst? The thirst is holy. There comes a moment, different for everyone, but unmistakable when it arrives. A moment when the pain of staying the same finally exceeds the fear of change. For me, it was a morning that looked like every other morning. Waking up with disappointment as my first companion. Broken promises scattered around me like cigarette butts. The substance that once offered escape now offering only numbness. But something was different. A stillness. A quiet voice that wasn't mine, and yet was more me than my thinking mind had ever been. There's another way. I didn't hear it with my ears. I felt it in my chest, in my bones, in some deep place that the addiction hadn't been able to touch despite all its ravaging. The mystics call this grace. That moment when something shifts not through your effort, but through some deeper intelligence moving through you. What followed wasn't dramatic. No angels appeared. No thunderbolt of instant transformation. Just small shifts. A curiosity I hadn't felt in years. A willingness to sit still without numbing myself. I started to embrace solitude. Not the lonely isolation of addiction, but genuine solitude. Quiet spaces where I could finally hear myself think, feel, exist without distraction. And in that solitude, something extraordinary happened. I began to feel deeper, think deeper. Questions arose that I'd been too numb to ask. Who am I beneath all this pain? What was I actually searching for? What if the emptiness isn't a problem to fix but a space to fill with presence? The spiritual teachers I encountered seemed to be describing exactly what I'd been experiencing, but from the other side. The Buddhist concept of dukkha, suffering, and its cause in craving. I'd lived that in my cells. The Christian mystic's dark night. I'd walked through it for years. The Hindu idea of Maya, illusion, and seeing through it. The addiction had shattered every illusion I had about myself. The Sufi poets celebrating the divine intoxication. I finally understood they weren't talking about wine. Now, 2 decades later, I can see the shape of what was happening with more clarity. The addiction wasn't a detour from my spiritual path. It was the path, at least for me. Here's what my soul was actually doing through those dark years: creating the capacity for genuine compassion. You cannot truly understand suffering until you've been pinned beneath its weight. Now, when I encounter someone struggling with addiction, with depression, with any form of human pain, I don't meet them with judgment or advice. I meet them with recognition. I've been in the underworld too, teaching the difference between escape and transcendence. Alcohol offered temporary escape, a brief vacation from consciousness. But what the soul actually wanted was transcendence, not running from reality, but seeing through it to something deeper and more true, demolishing the false self to reveal the true self. Every identity I'd constructed, the successful one, the popular one, the one who had it all together, the addiction burned it all down. And in the ashes, something authentic could finally emerge. Learning that rock bottom is often the foundation. You can't build a genuine spiritual life on top of pretense and performance. Sometimes you have to descend to the depths, to the place where all the superficial supports are stripped away, before you can build something real. If you're watching this and you're struggling with addiction, I want to tell you something that might sound strange, maybe even offensive. What if this is not your failure? What if this is not your weakness? What if this is not evidence of your brokenness? What if, and I offer this gently with all the compassion of someone who's walked this path, what if your soul chose this experience? Not because it's cruel, but because it's the particular fire you needed to burn away everything false. Not because easier paths weren't available, but because this is your path, with lessons only you can learn. Wounds that will become your particular medicine to offer the world. I'm not romanticizing addiction. The suffering is real. The damage is real. The potential for destruction is absolutely real. But I'm saying this: beneath the shame and the secrecy and the struggle, something sacred might be happening. Your addiction might be your soul's crude, desperate attempt to break you open when nothing else could, force you into the solitude where real transformation happens, teach you surrender when your ego refused to bow, show you the difference between false transcendence and true awakening. Develop in you a depth of compassion that only comes from genuine suffering. Strip away every false identity until only truth remains. So how does someone struggling with addiction embrace it as a pathway to discovery, rather than just a problem to fix? First, seek practical help. This is crucial. Talk to counselors, join support groups, get medical assistance if needed. The spiritual dimension doesn't negate the need for practical support. It complements it. Second, start asking different questions. Instead of, "Why am I so broken?" Try, "What is my soul trying to teach me?" Instead of, "How do I fix this?" Try, "What am I actually hungry for?" Third, embrace the solitude. In quiet moments without distraction or escape, you'll begin to hear a deeper voice. It's been there all along, beneath the noise. Fourth, see the craven as a teacher. What arises in those moments of desperate wanting? What's underneath the physical need? Often it's a profound existential longing for connection, for meaning, for home. That longing is sacred, even if the substance you're using to fill it is destructive. Fifth, look for the pattern beneath the pattern. The addiction is the surface. What's underneath? Trauma? Unworthiness? A sense of separation from existence itself? The addiction is pointing to something that needs attention, love, healing. Sixth, find your own doorway to transcendence. Meditation, prayer, nature, art, service, movement. There are countless paths to the expanded consciousness your soul is seeking. The substances were a false door. Find the real one. Here's what I discovered after the darkness finally began to lift. The light I found wasn't new. It had been there all along, even in the deepest moments of addiction. I just couldn't see it because I was looking in the wrong direction. Outside myself, in substances and escapes, rather than in the depths of my own awareness. The addiction taught me to look inward. It taught me that external solutions to internal hungers never work. It taught me that the peace I was seeking couldn't be bought, ingested, or inhaled. It could only be discovered in the stillness of my own presence. Many years later, I'm still exploring these questions, still discovering new layers of meaning in those dark years, still finding that the path through addiction opened doorways to consciousness that might have remained closed otherwise. If you're in the darkness right now, I want you to know you're not alone. You're not broken beyond repair. You're not a failure or a lost cause. You might be a soul in the midst of a profound transformation, using the only language you currently know, the language of addiction, to call yourself home. The light is waiting. It's closer than you think. Sometimes it's hiding right in the center of the darkness, waiting for you to stop running long enough to notice it. Your addiction might be the very thing that finally breaks you open to receive it. And when that light finally breaks through, and it will in its own time, you'll look back and see that even the darkest paths were somehow leading you here, to this moment, to this new awareness, to this new day, to this new light.